Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another YouTube live. And today I have with me Ustadh Aif Uddin. Now, Ustadh Asif, he is somebody who, for many, many years, um, he's not only a student of knowledge, but he's been active in the community in terms of dealing with issues that our youth are facing, and also just generally, with Islam 21C, which you guys might know, and MRDF. So, what I wanted to bring, the reason why I wanted to bring Asif in today is because with this particular virus, actually, first, Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing, Asif? So, why I wanted to bring in Asif today is there is a huge amount of suffering in the world today, and in particular, suffering because of this virus. So, people are worried economically. So, even if you're not ill, even if you're absolutely fine, people are worried economically. People are worried in terms of their personal relationships. Being at home all the time doesn't help. Also, there's a whole issue of us potentially going into a recession. So there's all these different factors and all these different things that are taking place. And as usual, people during a difficult time like this, they start asking the question, where is God in all of this? Like, why is God allowing this evil to take place? So today I just wanted to cover the basic idea of how does the Quran deal with the issue of evil and suffering in the Quran. Now, Asif, he, mashallah, he is actually doing a PhD in the Quran, in the tafsir of the Quran, rather, and looking into the themes of the Quran. And I thought he is the best candidate to actually cover this particular topic. So, Asif, to begin off with, if you were to talk to somebody who's just like an average layperson, who's, you can't use some sophisticated philosophical argument with him, and he's just saying this to you that I don't understand. If there is a God, then why would God let this happen? How would you respond to that?
So there's a number of ways of actually answering this, right? And one of the things that we have to understand, so I just want to make sure that my battery doesn't die. Yeah, so one of the ways of actually answering this is the fact that we have to look at the environmental situation. So when we're talking about suffering, when a lot of people talk about suffering, I would be interested to know who are asking these kind of questions. I'm not saying it's not a valid question, but it really depends in how much comfort we live in to begin with. And once we actually live in a particular environment, that dictates what level of suffering that we can actually take. And I give you an example, right? So, Sabur, I'm assuming you're like a second or third generation immigrant coming into the UK. I'm the same as well. And when I compare my generation and the generation that came after us, it's really interesting the level of thing as well that our parents' generation actually have, and the sacrifices that they are willing to make is very different to our generation and the generation below us as well. So I think part of this issue of suffering, it really goes back to the of him, and there's a level of thick skin that is involved that a person can develop because of environment. People who are from countries, they're able to deal with at a much higher level than perhaps people from the West, because our major gripe in life is when a train or a bus gets this issue. One of the most daily biggest issues that we may have, that is our suffering, as it were. And I'm kind of like giving an extreme example because I'm not trying to.
Okay, just to interrupt you there for a second, could you go back to your mobile internet, because you're cutting off
in the West in terms of people have through tragic the individual's environment. so you asked, how does the
Yeah.
Quran deal with
So
suffering? They actually deal very well. It risks sacrifices they actually made. So one of the things, a very common or a verse that appears on is that the Prophet, he becomes really sad and, I wouldn't say depressed, but really anxious because of the
So, Asif, can you hear me? I think your voice is cutting off a lot. Could you put on the mobile internet rather than the Wi-Fi? Because there's a lot of people in the comments who are saying that we can't hear you.
His to convert people around him.
Asif, can you hear us?
Sorry, our stories of the prophets.
Asif, could you change to your mobile internet rather than the Wi-Fi because it's cutting you off?
Okay.
Bear with me, guys. It's just, can you guys all hear my voice, by the way? Is my voice clear? The people who are commenting, could you just let me know? So I know the issues just on his end. Assalamualaikum. What I mean is that you just go onto your mobile internet rather than your Wi-Fi, because I think your Wi-Fi is weak at the moment. Okay, so you guys are saying your voice is very clear. Your voice is very clear. Thank you for that. So it just seems to be Ustadh Aif Uddin. I'm trying to add him to the live stream. Free speech has written, I need to go outside, take out my bin, then go for a walk. Good on you. Just make sure you don't talk to anybody or, having sort of physical contact. Where are you guys from, by the way? I know where some of you are from. Can you just put down your countries? Which countries are you guys from so I can get a good Okay, free speech has written. Mariam has written, we cannot leave home. Okay, what country? There we go. We get the. Assalamu alaikum, you're back.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Can you
Can
hear?
see me? Yes, I can.
Yeah, I can. I can see you now. You know, I just want to give you some bad news, right? All that time, all that time you were talking, like no one could hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You have to go back and repeat what you said in the beginning.
Okay, so shall I carry on?
Yep.
Okay, so what I was saying, that there's different types of suffering that is mentioned. There's a suffering that is mentioned on Prophet Muhammad that he went, he went through loads of, one of the fact that his film, that they tried to assassinate him. Excuse me, and this happened on more than one east. More than 10 attempts onto the Prophet had, when he had lost, then what happened is his ended to say that it's cut off now, because the legacy of a person would generally be carried on with the son. And this and revealed a chapter, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, as a result of this. And he also have an example of example of suffering from a personal level of a prophet, and that is this very story. And there's also a biblical narration of this as well, and that is a story of Joseph and how Yusuf, and how his father he had lost his son for, and he had extreme of suffering from a personal perspective that a prophet went through, that so much and white, meaning that because he was over the time. Some of the scholars, they say that he was away from his son for 30 or 40 years, and the reason for this is because his others of that rid of him, so there was no attention.
Okay, so Asif, let me just.
So there's of stuff that mentioned.
So, Asif, we still can't hear you. Something's going on. We can't hear you properly. We can just hear bits and bobs. Could you possibly go outside and see if we can hear you outside?
Now,
no, we can't. That's the problem. We can't hear you. It's still crackling a lot. Is it possible for you to go outside so we can hear you properly? All right. I'm not sure why this is happening. Apologies for that, guys. Let me just get back to you. Give me. Assalamu alaikum, guys. So basically, we have a problem, and Aif Uddin, Ustadh Aif, couldn't actually continue the session because we couldn't actually hear him. So just before I carry on the session on my own, which is going to be a bit sad, but I guess, yeah, like Ghassan al-Hajri says, poor Ustadh was explaining the whole time, we couldn't hear him. Yes, that's very right. He was trying to explain the issue and we couldn't actually hear him. I just wanted to give a few thoughts for all of you guys who, you've been with me for quite a while now. So thank you for that. Just wanted to give you some thoughts on the Quranic view of suffering, which Asif was trying to explain. And I'm going to begin off with where he sort of left off. Now, the story of Joseph is the story which we get in the Bible. It's also a story we get in the Quran, where Joseph is a son of another prophet, the Prophet Yaqub. And he is somebody who the other brothers reject. And he has many brothers, I think 11 or something. I could be wrong there, but he has a lot of brothers. And these brothers of his, they really don't like him. And they plan to basically get rid of him. And then he ends up being lost and away from his father for a very long time. And he goes through all this pain. And then his father goes through all this pain. And his father goes through not having eyesight, right? Becoming blind out of pain. And eventually, then it all comes together that he meets his father again and he regains his sight, and all of those things happen. So the Quranic paradigm on evil is that evil is something which is part and parcel of life. And God did not create us to have a disco party. God created us so that we worship him. So there may be times where we really want to, have an easy life. We want to have a relaxing life. But the problem is that that's not the way life is. Life is full of good. Life is full of evil. Everybody goes through some form of suffering and pain. So that's the reality of life. Life is not there to, for us to be happy all the time, and we're to be trusted. We're to be tested. Now, I can never pronounce his name right. I hope I get it right. Hayalopfra. Okay. I'm just going to call you HC. I'm really sorry. I'm really bad at names. So he's asking, why does an omniscient God test people? So, according to the Islamic paradigm, we are tested so that God gets the best out of us. Now, somebody can say, well, God can know how we're going to react in a test. even before creating us. So God doesn't technically need to put us through a test. Yes, but we do. Like, if I am created and the first thing that's done to me is I'm thrown into hell or thrown into paradise, the first thing I'm going to say is, well, what did I do to get here? This life is that process where you basically are seeing the actions that you're actually taking. So the purpose of life is to worship God, and God created us to be tested. That's basically the Islamic paradigm. Now, Assalamu alaikum from Libya. Wa alaikum salam. I'm glad to see someone from Libya. I haven't seen someone from Libya before. We've had people from all over, Kazakhstan, the UK, India. People have been watching from all over, but it's nice to have someone from North Africa. Okay, that's like... So Muhammad writes, what's interesting is the fact that Prophet Yaqub went through so much tin type point where he went blind from crying and then used to paint it beautiful. Yes, his story, the story of Yaqub alayhi salam, is amazing because he went through so much pain and turmoil, but he still never ever gave up trust in Allah. In fact, he teaches his children, his sons, do not despair of Allah's mercy, because only the disbelievers despair of God's mercy. And that's such a powerful, powerful lesson for all of us. That, no matter what you go through, never despair of God's mercy. Okay, HC is asking, how is God's omniscience reconciled with his free will? Right, classical question, right? So, thank you for that question. God, according to the Islamic understanding, is all-knowing, and God has also given us free choice. We can be the author of our own actions. Even to the point that when somebody dies, they will actually be shown their place in paradise and their place in hellfire. So anybody who ends up going to paradise, he will be shown his place in hellfire, and it'll be shown to him that if you messed up, this is where you'd end up. And anybody who's going to hellfire, they'd be shown a place in paradise, and it'd be said to them that if you did the right things, you would have ended up here. So Islam has that notion of free will, right? It has that notion of free choice. At the same time, we are told very clearly, very explicitly that God already knows every single action that's ever been taken and every single action that will ever be taken, and God has decreed it. So how do we reconcile these two things? Well, you cannot actually try to you can't try to, on the surface level, accept both points and explain them purely logically, right? Because from at first pass, it looks like these things absolutely contradict each other. So then the question arises, why do we believe in it? So why do we believe in free will, and why do we believe in predestination? Well, the reason we believe in both those things is because those are the things which God has mentioned in the Quran. Now, somebody may ask, why do we believe in the Quran? And that's when we go to the Quranic miracle. That's when we go to the idea that the Quran is a miracle sociologically, from a linguistic perspective, from a prediction perspective, and from other perspectives. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, is a true messenger of God because of this reason. Then if God tells us free will is real, and God tells us predestination is real, even though it's hard for us to conceptualize that, we will just accept it. Likewise, in the Quran, God mentions that there's a tree that grows in hellfire. Now, the disbelievers in God, they found this ridiculous. They thought, how is it possible that a tree can grow in hellfire when in hellfire, you just get fire and you get burning, and how can you have a tree growing? So the Quraysh, the disbelievers of Makkah, they found this ridiculous. They found this impossible to conceptualize. However, we believe it to be true as Muslims because fire burning, yes, we know it burns away wood. We know that if you throw a log of wood in a volcano, it'll completely burn. So how is it possible that wood will grow in paradise without burning, even though the fire is supposed to be so hot? And the reason is because God has told us that both these things happen. Even if we can't conceptualize it, we will simply accept it to be true, even if we cannot conceptualize it. So the question always goes back to, why do we believe this particular thing to be true? In the same manner, one of the most difficult things to try and explain is the night journey of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So we are told that the Prophet traveled to Jerusalem and traveled from Jerusalem all the way to heaven and back, all within the space of one night. Now, physically, leaving aside the heaven part, to travel to Jerusalem back 1400 years ago in one night would have been impossible, completely impossible. And then to travel to paradise, which is, you have the seven heavens, and each of the heavens you have like so much vast distance, traveled at what speed, we don't know. How can that be possible in one night? Well, why do we believe in it? Because we believe in the Quran, because we believe in what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said. If you try and explain it physically, you can't. You can't physically explain it. So we always have to go back to why we believe the Quran is actually true. So we've had some comments since the last time. Let's go back to HC. He says, it's not that we don't understand it, it's that nobody can because it's impossible. Okay, this is where it's important to bring in a distinction. Something which may seem physically impossible to us does not mean it's impossible in reality, right? So, say 1,000 years ago, a really intelligent person in, I don't know, Libya, right? 1,000 years ago, if you tried to explain to them aerodynamics, planes flying, tried to explain to them electricity, Wi-Fi, live streaming using YouTube, right? They couldn't conceptualize those things. They would think it's impossible that I'm sitting here and people in Libya are watching and people in all over the world are watching and people are interacting, right? But just because that person perceives it to be physically impossible according to their limited knowledge, that does not mean it's impossible in reality, right? Remember, from a theistic perspective, God is the author of the laws of physics. God is the author of whatever we perceive of the uniformity of nature. So when we see something like fire burns or an object drops, so these things that we call basic laws or just observations, these are for us things which are immutable, things which cannot change. But from God's perspective, God created the universe and God created these laws of nature and these causal relationships. And for God to change them, it's nothing. It's literally nothing. And I think that's why it's important that we keep going back to why the Quran is true in the first place. Darwin delusions. I think you're referring to Rana Dajani, rejects the Quranic verse about Adam, calls it a metaphor. Will you respond to her video? The thing is, look, if somebody wants to, and I don't like talking about particular Muslim individuals who, say certain things, because I don't want to get into that name calling sort of business, but I just want to deal with the argument here because others have said something similar to her and I want to show why it doesn't make any sense. If we want to have this argument that Adam was not a real person, that Adam is a metaphor for humanity, right? And you want to try and beef up that argument by saying, well, the Quran doesn't always speak in a literal way. So the Quran sometimes speaks in metaphors. What we need to remind ourselves is that that is a very slippery slope, right? That is an extremely slippery slope. The reason that's the case is if we decide to cherry pick and say, well, this thing's metaphor and this thing's is literal, then who's to say we can just switch around a lot of things? We can say, well, when God's speaking about paradise, he's actually speaking about a utopia that mankind will achieve after, I don't know, world peace or something, right? And when it's speaking about hellfire, it's actually speaking about the way the world is now because people are going through pain and anguish and whatnot. Or when the Quran is actually talking about, I don't know, the sea parting with Moses, it wasn't actually referring to the sea parting. It was actually referring to Pharaoh being exposed as a liar amongst his people. I mean, you will just, you'll get into these absurdities. So we have to look back into why people, they try to come up with these types of arguments. And the reason is they take science and scientific findings as absolute. And then they look at the Quran and something which seems like a contradiction to them, they'll say, right, I can't reject the Quran because I'm a Muslim. So let me basically take this particular passage or whatever and just interpret it in a way that's in line with modern science. All right, fair enough, but let's see how far that will get you, because if there are completely different scientific findings tomorrow which contradict the conclusions that you use today to come up with your inference, in which you changed the certain passages of the Quran to mean what they don't mean, then you'll have to change again and change again and change again. What's to stop you? So look, if you want to be authentic, then you just have to be clear and you have to say, look, there are some things in the Quran which don't fit current Darwinian understanding. And you know, even if you go as far as you try and, you know, use things to be a metaphor, let's just say something which is as clear cut as the virgin birth of Jesus, right? Peace be upon him. Nobody in the entire world with a background in science would agree that you can have a virgin giving birth. That's scientifically impossible, right? However, in the Quran, that's what it says. How are you going to get around that? Well, again, you can try and say it's some sort of metaphor, it's this, it's that, but then you just get into total absurdities. It's way better to just say, yeah, these things, they don't fit contemporary science. So what? Science isn't the be-all. It's not absolute. It's not the yardstick for reality, right? I mean, just look at your own life. The vast majority of the decisions you've made in your life, which you consider to be good and right decisions, are not scientific decisions. They're just based upon your reasoning, right? So reason is the main thing we should be using in our life. Science is a subset of the domain of reason. So science can tell us, you know, good things. We can develop vaccines. We can do a lot of great stuff with science. It's not a bad thing. But to always pander to science's perceived ultimate authority, which, by the way, philosophically is nonsense anyway. But, you know, what is scientism? Scientism is essentially the excessive belief in science, the excessive idea that science is capable of giving us certainty and is the main root of knowledge. Even that claim itself is not scientific. So anyway, I've been waffling on, but let's see what other comments you guys have read. Qadr requires to put yourself in the place of Allah, which is ridiculous. Yeah, you could put it in that way. Yeah, it's like saying, some people are like, well, if I was God, I wouldn't let that happen. The problem is you're not God. So that's not a valid argument. You get these people with this God complex. They think they can see through God's perspective. Rightio. Wow, a lot of comments. As there is a differentiation between a paradox and empirical logical fallacy, okay. From a physics standpoint, Miraj meaning the night journey, can be explained using light travel. It's a real possibility, question mark. How would you do that? Say, hypothetically, remember, if we go with the idea that the universe is way, way, way bigger than what science is at the moment telling us, which, by the way, is the Islamic understanding. Our Islamic understanding is that the first heaven is the heaven with the stars. And so far, all of the universe that we've explored, we're still in the first heaven, and there are 7 heavens. So even if, hypothetically, even if the Prophet, peace be upon him, was traveling at the speed of light, it could be that the speed of light is not enough to go to heaven and come back in one evening. I mean, look, guys, this whole problem of, oh, I don't understand this miracle, don't understand that miracle, is because somebody doesn't understand Allah. Allah says in the Quran, God says in the Quran, they have not made a just estimate of Allah, right? He's talking about humanity here. They have not made a just estimate of Allah. God, if you truly understand how great God is, these are not even questions, to be frank with you. They're honestly not even questions. Okay. How does Islam Okay, wow, a lot of comments. Harun Summerfield, Allah is almighty, so it's possible for him to give us his creation free will, and I don't see a problem with that. Literally, that is the point I'm trying to convey. Thank you very much, Harun. That is the point I'm trying to convey. You start off with the idea, Allah is great, Allah is almighty, right? What's impossible for him? Allah can do whatever he wants. Khalas, it's simply not an issue. Okay, Muhammad Habib. Atheists also have the free will and determinism dilemma. It's not just a theistic issue. Yes, I agree. The only difference is that we have a solution and they don't, right? So they don't have a solution. Our solution is that both of these things are true. Why? Because the Quran is true and we have evidence for why we have faith in the Quran. So it's not exactly equal. They're in a much worse position. How do you answer with proof to my friend believes that Islam wasn't from man, but wants proof that it couldn't have been from some powerful being that knows everything of this world but isn't God? Fine. So ask your friend what evidence he has or she has for that particular hypothesis. Because there's this common misunderstanding that a potential is a probability, right? So this is potentially possible, therefore it's probable. No, it's not. Potentiality isn't probability. Even so, I mean, just this trail of thought, who uses it in life? Oh, I just got this phone, right? So I got this phone. Maybe it's not really made. Maybe it's not really Android. Maybe it's iPhone pretending to be Android. I mean, these sort of arguments are ridiculous and they don't really get you anywhere. Dr. Basil Attai from Yarmouk University differentiated between laws of nature and laws of physics, latter are man-made definitions. That's, I think, quite accurate. Of course, you have to remember that you have laws of nature, right? And those are at bottom the actual laws that exist in the universe. And the laws of physics that we had in the 19th century, that we had in the 20th century, and that we're going to have in the 21st century are different. But those laws of physics, they're trying to understand those laws of uniformity. So, of course, because science is in flux, it can change. We can't actually say that the laws of physics that we have now are the actual laws of nature. There's a lecture about the Deen show. If God already knows, how is it my fault? Numan Ali Khan explained some. Yeah, I think Ustadh Numan Ali Khan is very good at explaining those sort of things. The scholars would differentiate between literal and metaphor based upon the holistic principle, not a case-by-case situation. Yes, and also, if you look at scholars of tafsir, they did use empirical data to inform the way that they were interpreting verses as well. But you can't go beyond, a lexical limit. So if certain words can only mean certain things, you can't give them a, go past that. Books to read on the English language refute atheism, really good besides Hamza's book and WCL, William Lane Craig, I'm guessing. I don't know. I mean, I think Hamza's book is pretty much good enough. I don't think you need more than that. It's a fairy tale, says Mr. Atheist. Okay, so a universe which has sentient beings having intellectual discussions over YouTube, where billions of people are working together to find solutions and cooperate with each other, and a universe which is intelligible, which has laws that we can try and discern, and all of this is a cosmic accident. That's what you call a fairy tale. If we are suffering, it's because it's a trial from Allah, or it's a trial from Allah because of our sin. In either case, we must not think bad of God, always assume it's because of our sins. Thinking good of Allah, according to the Prophet, peace be upon him, is excellent worship of Allah. Thinking good of Allah is an act of love, because it shows that you truly believe in Allah in a best way. So yeah, we should always think good of Allah. Non-existence is the default position. Why? Why is that the case? Darwinian delusions, by the way, whichever person, also gets around with virgin birth of Jesus. Okay, always also gets around with virgin birth of Jesus. I don't know what you mean by that. I believe Muslims should be careful because she wears hijab, lecture as a Muslim scientist, many get influenced by her. Of course, I don't want to talk about somebody, and I don't obviously want to talk about somebody that I haven't verified exactly what they said in the context of what they said. But I have a very strong inclination to warn people that there are people in the Muslim community which look part and parcel of, the orthodoxy. They'll have the Islamic garb on. They'll have, degrees from universities, Azhar and Medina. There could be anybody in the entire world, right? But they can have views which are completely out of line of Islamic orthodoxy. We always have to ask a simple question, which is, what is your justification for this? Right? It doesn't matter how wild their opinion is. It's easy to say, well, they're deviant, they've gone off the tracks. But it's much better to actually just say, well, what's your argument? And just intellectually refute their argument. Because Islamically, if they know their sources, they should be able to give you a coherent argument. And in the case of this particular person that you're referring to, I haven't heard what they've said about the virgin birth, but I have heard what they've said about evolution. And I really don't think that this person would stand a chance, would stand 5 minutes against someone with a background in the Quran and the lexical analysis of particular verses and stuff. I don't think they'll last that long. Would be interesting to see somebody debate rationality rules on Islam. He's good mates with cosmic skeptic. Rationality rules, to be honest, is not that good. Alex O'Connor is way more intelligent. Yeah, they're on par. It's kind of like, it's almost like the atheist version of me and Imran, right? It's like two buddies, teaming up together and making videos and doing other sorts of things. But I do feel he's very shallow. Alex is quite smart. I don't agree with him, but he's quite smart. Rationality rules, not so much. I have a feeling, I could be wrong here, but I have a feeling that privately Alex probably advises him to make his stuff more academic, because he does go for low-hanging fruit. And in fact, unbelievable host Justin Briley, he debated rationality rules. You can watch it on YouTube, and I didn't know this. They actually debated. I think during the debate, Alex told me, or afterwards he told me, or something like the same way. And I was like, just watch that debate. He comes across quite good on YouTube, and he's got, this thing is fallacious because of this thing's fallacious because of this thing's fallacious because of that. This is my, this is my card game of fallacies. But he actually commits the same fallacies. You guys keep typing. Let me post a link of our brother Yusuf Ponders. He actually made a refutation of rationality rules. And that was I just found it.
Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm going to debunk.
Anybody that watches this, they're just going to not take rationality rules seriously. It's just poor stuff. But he is popular. Maybe we get Yusuf to debate him. In fact, who wants Yusuf to debate rationality rules? Let's have some votes here. Could you explain about your claim that lions have moral agency? Okay. All animals, actually no, let me qualify that. Higher animals and majority of animals, you could say, but not all. They would have to be on an evolutionary gradient if Darwinism is true and human beings are animals according to the Darwinian picture. So if we have moral agency and they don't, do you know what you call that? Human exceptionalism, which has to be false if Darwinism is correct, if veganism is correct, in fact. So there has to be a gradient. And in fact, I made a video about animals having moral agency. Moral agency is obviously a bit of a vague term, so watch out for that. I did qualify that I don't mean to say that currently evolutionary biology teaches us enough to basically say that we can judge those animals. Although from the Islamic perspective, we do believe animals have a type of, justice. But they do have moral agency, and I have actually made a video about this. I would like to see this happen. Do you mean, Muhammad Ansar Ahmed, do you mean do you mean rationality rules versus pondering soul? Hope you do. I'd pay to see that. I'd like to see it for free. Muhammad Habib writes, yeah, brother Yusuf completely dismantled the argument. More like destroyed it. That was really good. That was a good video. Okay, that's the link that I put. Grey Wolf, pondering soul completely destroyed rationality rules argument in that video. AD Stan, what is the point of a life as a test to determine what you do if Qadr already exists? Exactly. This is a question which I put earlier. It doesn't make sense from the perspective that God needs to learn something. And we don't believe God needs to learn something, as God is all-knowing. But it does make sense so that we can see our actions in this life, right? Because if we were created and we were just sent to hell and sent to paradise, we would say, well, what did we do to get here? So this is that life in which we're getting to see our own actions. Aldin. I thought it was Aladdin, but it's not, it's Aldin. Darwinian delusions. What is your opinion about New Agers, philosophers, occultists? I think they're growing. I think there's a yearning for mankind to connect with something greater than themselves. I think there's an urge to be immortal. There's an urge to find deeper meaning and purpose. And if people don't get it through guidance, through revelation, through the belief in God, through the connection with the Abrahamic God, then they'll just go for anything. As Sheikh Ahmed Deedat said, they'll go for Satanism. They'll go for, all these sort of occult things. They'll go for whatever. In fact, they'll even go for fringe Hindu movements, such as those cults. I've forgotten the name. Anybody can maybe tell me. Sai Baba was one. There's another cult which is all about having sex and dancing and Osho or something was the name of the guy. So yeah, people do that. Do you think the conspiracy theorists pose a danger to the severity precautionary measures everyone should be taking from the common sense point of view? I'm guessing you're speaking about COVID-19, coronavirus. I don't think most people doubt that this is a real danger and people are dying. I mean, now we've got to a point where people are dying and everybody knows somebody that's been infected. I mean, I know people that have been infected. So I don't know. That's testimony, right? I don't think people really doubt that anymore. Well, some people may do. Do you recommend any videos, articles on free will and predestination in Islam? People always ask me this. When you give them a simple reply, look, if the Quran's true, then we have free will and we have we have qadr. People always say, oh, do you have an article on this? Do you have a video on this? Do you have a book on this? As if that thing is going to solve the issue any better than what was just explained to them. And it's not going to. Look, You have scholars who've written about predestination and qadar, and they've written books, and other people have written other stuff, and it's on and on and on. However, at rock bottom, Islam didn't come just for philosophers. Islam came for all of humanity, including peasants, Bedouins, right, simpletons, everybody. So this whole concept of qadr and free will is very simple. Allah has given us free will and has given us qadr. We can't conceptualize it. It's very hard for us to do so, but it's true because we can give evidence that the Quran is true. It's as simple as that. Oz. Does an atheist who believes in scientific fact have to perform the experiment themselves? Seems though they simply believe it based on someone else's testimony. Yep, they do indeed. Husnain Murtaza, why don't you debate Sam Harris? Well, there are a lot better people than me that can debate Sam Harris and give him a whooping that he needs. There's Hamza Sotsis, Muhammad Hijab, Abdullah Andalusi, Asadullah Andalusi. Who else? Bassam Zawadi. I mean, there are so many people out there. I mean, if I had the chance to debate him, I'd actually pass it on, probably to Asadullah or Hamza or whatever. You know, there's way better people than me in this, and I'm not saying that to be humble. If I wanted to, be humble, then this is not the time to be humble. I mean, if I had the opportunity to debate Richard Dawkins, right, I would say, yeah, I want to debate him. I wouldn't say let someone else do it. I could do it, inshallah. But when it comes to Sam Harris, people are way better, so they could do that, inshallah. India, whole media is blaming Tablighi Jamaat and associating them with terrorism. India's gone. They're completely gone. They're just a fascist state now. I mean, there are very good Hindus still there who are with the Muslims and they're working with the Muslims, but India has gone so far down this fascist route now. And a lot of people are worried, rightly so. Also, Iyad Kunabi and Al Sabil channel. A lot of people have been posting his comments about him. I don't understand Arabic, obviously, so I don't know the content of his videos, but it must be very good because a lot of people have been speaking highly of him. May Allah reward him for his efforts. Did you read the book Proofs of Prophethood, Sami Amri? Nope, but I probably should. Feel sorry for atheists. Don't we all? Well, when there is no morality, it's easy to attract people to anything. It became easy for Shaitan to bring, I don't know what that word is, sadistic ideas and implement in the human mind. Of course there is. And look, I'm not saying all atheists are bad, but what has atheism really given the world, right? If I have if there's an atheist here, right? There's a few atheists like Mr. Atheist and a few others, right? If I sit down with you and I say to you, all right, fine, I'll be an atheist. I'm happy to accept atheism. Tell me what the purpose of life is. Tell me the meaning of life. Tell me my value. Do I have any value a million years from now? Do I even exist? What is the point of life? What do you have to offer me? What do you think they'll say? They don't have anything. They honestly do not have anything, which is why I don't understand. You've got no dog in this race. Sorry. If I was to call you to Islam, I'd say, look, Islam, practically, it's something which will give you peace of mind. Something I've experienced, something other people who have accepted Islam have experienced. You have a connection with God. You have a meaning of life. You have a purpose. Now, from your perspective, you probably just look at what we're saying and you just think that's nonsense. You just think it's wrong. Fair enough. From your point of view, even if we accept your argument, we've at least, on the bare minimum, we at least have a worldview. We have something. Now, whether it's true or not, we can have a debate. We can have a discussion, right? But what exactly do you have? You have nothing. You literally have nothing. And we, on the minimum, even if we were to accept hypothetically that you're right, even from that point of view, we've at least got something that we can discuss. Okay, here's something. You guys don't have anything. You literally have nothing. Lay Muslims need to stop getting triggered by atheists. It makes us look uncomfortable. 99% of the time, atheists are not worth a conversation. I don't really agree with that. I think most atheists are not militant atheists. Those are just people you get online and stuff, and sometimes in Speaker's Corner and stuff. Genuine conversations. Ben Ikra. Is this Ben from Oxford? Ben Lewis, if I'm not wrong, because that picture looks like the picture with EF Dawah guys. Maybe he's going to answer soon. What does Sahih Muslim 2897 mean? Well, that's just a reference in the book. What if atheists say truth is more important than fairy tales, like Richard Dawkins? Yeah, we agree truth is more important than fairy tales, but from an atheistic perspective, why is truth intrinsically valuable? Why is truth more valuable than fairy tales or false ideas? There's literally no reason. And I'm willing to have a debate with any atheist on this. Truth is not intrinsically valuable under atheism. It's purely instrumentally valuable. If you survive on true beliefs, if you survive on false beliefs, as long as you survive, that's all that matters, right? So we believe Allah is al-haq, Allah is the truth. So truth has intrinsic value. But an atheist can't say that. What is the value of the person who is predestined to hell, for hell, as is stated in the hadith? Nobody will go to hell unless they deserve it. I saw a series on the arrivals a long time ago. One of the people said Charles Darwin got the theory of evolution from Satan himself, and anyone who teaches it will be in high ranks. Now, I've been studying Darwin academically, and as a person, I have great respect for him. I think he's way better than the new atheists we have today. He respected the question of God. He was never an atheist. He was a deist for most of his life, and then he became an agnostic because of the problem of evil. I mean, the guy is way better than these people that I have today. I don't think there is a whiff of evidence for him being a Satanist or him being inspired by Satan or any of these things. it just seems like a complete fabrication, this whole idea. And it's been going on for a long time, Darwin being inspired by Satan and whatnot. Is it okay to ask third question? I'm debating this new ager for like 2 years and keeps on bringing new philosophical questions. Should I continue to give up? Look, I want you to think about something, right? If you guys are going back and forth about philosophical questions of abstract ideas, right, for the last 2 years, maybe you haven't even given him dawah yet. Maybe if he's just going off into his, abstract ideas and spiritualism and whatever, just tell him about Islam. Say, this is what we believe. Khalas. Just tell him, this is what we believe. Sometimes you just have to be direct with people, instead of beating around the bush, just be direct with them. Not saying you haven't, but I'm just saying sometimes that's what happens. We just beat around the bush and we discuss all these ideas. And in reality, we should just say, look, if you become a Muslim, your life will be way better. Here's why Islam's true. And if you don't, you're going to hellfire forever. If you recognize it's true and you reject it, we can't say a particular person is destined for hellfire, but what we can say is, if you are given the message of Islam and you reject it, you recognize it's true and you reject it, then those people, we are told about them that they go to hellfire. What books would you recommend for Muslims to deal with Western thought? Not just to counter it on certain matters, but to understand it and develop intellectual thought in general. So before you read up a philosophical book by a Muslim refuting liberalism, feminism, atheism, Darwinism, I would ask you to please fill up your brain, hardwire your brain to fully understand and comprehend what Allah is saying in the Quran. Now, the Quran for a non-Muslim is an ancient book, irrelevant to modern times. The Quran for the believer is guidance. There's nothing new under the sun. The categories of people, their motivations, their state, those things are mentioned in the Quran. And what you'll recognize is that the same issue that the Sahaba were dealing with, we're actually dealing with today, psychologically with people. It's not that different. So you have atheists who deny the resurrection and they are, say, materialistic and they're all about progress. Progress is like this idol and it's all about science and improving themselves and this thing. Well, how different were the Quraysh? How different were the Arab pagans? Same. Denying God, right? Denying the resurrection. They had a belief in some sort of thing, but that was irrelevant. They just denied resurrection, denied hereafter, denied paradise, denied hellfire, and they were all about this world, earning money, right? Showing off, boasting. What were the things? Tim Kasser, he's a psychologist, he's written a book called The High Price of Materialism. And he breaks down materialism into 3 things. He says materialism is about self-image, it's about wealth, and it's about status, right? 3 things. So your status, how wealthy you are, and how you look. That is materialism today. And that's what a 21st century psychologist writes about materialism. That is the exact attributes of the Quraysh. They're all about image, they're all about money, they're all about, status. So nothing's new under the sun. I mean, after you inculcate your brain and you brainwashing is not necessarily a bad thing. Washing is a good thing. So once you get rid of all of that nonsense, all those nonsensical liberal ideas that we've all grown up with, and you infuse your mind with the Quran, and you live and breathe the Quran, like okay, this is the psychology of the Quran. This is what the Quran is trying to convey. Then, when you pick up any literature to tackle Western philosophy, Western ideas, right? And not all Western ideas are bad, but certain ideas that conflict with Islam. Liberalism, feminism, atheism, Darwinism, scientism, and all that stuff. Your prior understanding of the Quran will amplify your knowledge, and will not only amplify your knowledge, it will give you more confidence. See, what we do sometimes is that we don't give the Quran its due. We think the answers are found in, oh yeah, Muhammad Hijab has written this book on feminism, yeah, so that would really help us tackle feminism. But they don't think, wait, can the Quran help us tackle feminism? Doesn't the Quran teach us that men and women are a team where the man is the protector? And doesn't the Quran teach us there are gender roles? Doesn't the Quran teach us that men are protectors and maintainers of women? Doesn't the Quran teach us that a woman shouldn't want what a man wants and a man shouldn't want what a woman wants, but rather we should be striving for the hereafter? Doesn't the Quran also teach us it doesn't matter whether you're male or you're female, you're going to be rewarded according to your good deeds? Of course it does. So, I'm not, obviously, I MMA savage, bro. I don't mean you haven't read the Quran, you haven't fully, fully absorbed it in your psyche. I'm just making a general comment that I see amongst Muslims, that they go for refutations of Western philosophy without even understanding what our understanding is, and without even understanding the nuanced point that you don't need to refute everything. So even when it comes to certain Western ideas, they're okay, they're compatible with Islam. Not all of them are bad. Scientism is bad. So yeah, we'll tackle it. But even, and I think this is important to understand, even when it comes to feminism, right? Be careful the way you tackle it. Because not all of the things that the feminists are saying are wrong. This is important to understand, right? And I'm not a feminist. I'm definitely not. Ask my wife. I'm not a feminist, right? But I value the fact that they do raise issues which are real issues, which are not being raised. And they do actually give us an avenue for those discussions. I don't agree with their solutions at all. I don't agree at all with what they're proposing. But I agree with some of the problems that they're raising, such as harassment. I think harassment's a real issue. And I think it's an issue in which the Islamic community has largely failed. I think most religious communities, I think most societies have failed. Harassment of women in the workplace, that goes on. Women being seen as second-class citizens, right? Women being seen as, so you have a son who's born, you give the son an iPad, you have a daughter, it's like, oh, she's a burden. Muslims do this. I know other religious communities do that as well. In the Western world, they don't. You see, this is important to understand, yeah? There are some really good things in the West, which are Islamic, if you think about it. The way that they treat their children, like a man and a boy and a girl, the way they'll have equality between them, right? The Prophet, peace be upon him, look what he taught us. He taught us to value females. He told us that someone who has two daughters and raises them and, takes care of them and whatnot, I don't remember the exact the rest of the narration, but they'll have paradise, right? So there's so many things that, we shouldn't just, and that's why, I'm very careful when speaking about certain Western ideas like feminism, because we can't just attack it wholesale. We have to be very careful. Even Muhammad Hijab, who is he's like a juggernaut against feminism. But even he, in his talks, he first clarifies, right? He clarifies, I'm not attacking women's rights. And he even says, look, women's rights existed before the political movement of feminism. But he's actually attacking, their solutions, not some of the problems that they're actually raising. Okay. Have you read the latest news that scientists discovered life on Mars? Nope, I have not. Ben Ikra, he says it is. That's fantastic. In fact, Ben, I was actually thinking of inviting you to do a live YouTube session on atheism to Islam. Sounds good? I'm looking forward to that. Also, Ben is from Oxford, and I grew up there, and I have loads of memories, so we can have a nostalgic conversation and talk about the old takeaways if he, if he was into that sort of thing. Do you believe Richard Dawkins to be overrated and completely dependent on Krauss? All right, let's start with something good about Richard Dawkins, right? I think he's a great writer. Right, you can kill me for this. I think he is one of the best science writers in the world. Okay, there I said it. I've read when other scientists are writing about science, and it's poor. Yeah, so he's a great communicator. He is a great writer. Not a scientist, and he's completely overrated as an authority in evolutionary biology. He is out of date. There's so many other issues with him. But yeah, there's some good things about him and some other things. I mean, one of the most stupidest things that Richard Dawkins did is try to take on E.O. Wilson. And E.O. Wilson just made him look like a muppet. He just looked like a muppet. Let me try and see if I've got that video for you guys to watch. I mean, he just looks like an idiot. I mean, E.O. Wilson is like, he's a guy who they named a scientific subfield of biology after, right? So, it's unbelievable that he tries to take on these big scientists and he just ends up looking stupid. Also, when he tried to take on, someone's ringing me. When he tried to take on, who else did he try to take on? He tried to take on somebody and it didn't work. He tried to take on Stephen Jay Gould. What a stupid thing to do. Stephen Jay Gould is like the man. He's like, he knows what he's doing. Yeah, he's dead now, but Richard Dawkins tried to take him on, and that was a really silly thing to do. What is interesting is natural selection is more likely to favor false beliefs than true beliefs. I don't think that's true. Natural selection can't tell the difference between true beliefs and false beliefs. But I would argue that natural selection has given us a value for false beliefs and for true beliefs as well, because it does help us survive. But if I was to say overall, what does natural selection favor? Is it more likely to favor true beliefs than false beliefs? I would actually say, yeah, it does favor true beliefs more than false beliefs, because true beliefs are more likely to help you survive, although false beliefs can also help you survive. But either way, natural selection doesn't give you value for the intrinsic value for truth. I've been encountering those of people who are trying to show geocentrism / flat earth in the Quran. Thoughts? Again, this is like scientific miracles in the Quran. This is people reading their understanding of reality into the Quran, and there's plenty of refutations of this you'll find online. Rose, how do they know that they are fairy tales? Okay, I don't know what that's about. Was Darwin a naturalist? Yes, he was. How to deal with a deist? Speak to them about why theism makes more sense than deism. God wouldn't just create us and leave us to just be on our own. That doesn't really make any sense. That's the way I usually deal with it. You speak about revelation. I have a talk on this. Abraham fulfilled on the IRA channel, if you just go through. It's a long time ago, but I gave a talk in which I mentioned the need for revelation, but also as part of the Go Rap, the R and Go Rap. Somebody's written something in Russian, don't understand Russian. Would you recommend young Muslims to study philosophy? I would recommend young Muslims to study the Quran, understand the Quran, understand the Seerah, understand the Islamic paradigm, understand Aqidah, understand Tahara, understand the fiqh of Salah, understand all of the things that you're supposed to understand. And if that young Muslim then develops into a mature Muslim, then get them to understand Islamic epistemology and Islamic metaphysics. And once they've grounded themselves in that, and then they want to give da'wah, and then they want to tackle certain Western ideas which conflict with Islam, then you can, of course, study a rival philosophy. But of course, there's some conditions to that. So you're studying it for the purpose of da'wah. You're studying it with somebody that can guide you in case you get confused. If you're studying with a teacher, these types of things. It's not just a case of, you just take your, as Numan Ali Khan says, take your iman for a roller coaster ride. I don't believe in that. Okay. Right, guys, please be nice to each other. There's things in the comments like, people are taking swipes at each other. Please just allow that. Let's have a nice, simple. At the end of the day, we're here to give the message of Islam to non-Muslims, and if a non-Muslim doesn't agree with our position, fair enough, they don't agree. We don't have to, say things against them. I'm actually reading the comments right now. What do you think about atheists bring up the Epic of Gilgamesh as an argument against Abrahamic religions? We can tackle it obviously by going into the whole historical account, but I'm just giving you guys a tool to deal with all atheist arguments. Whatever they come up with. I mean, this thing, somebody earlier on today said, atheists are basically saying Islam says the cure to everything is black seed oil, which is not true, which is taken out of context. And, therefore Islam's wrong. I recommend with all of their arguments, say, just reply back to them, just to do a sort of parody argument and to say to them, right, okay, well, why do you want us to follow what's true? What's wrong with following things that are false? From an atheistic, nihilistic point of view, there's nothing. Literally nothing. You see, for a believer, following the truth is intrinsically valuable because we were created by God. God is the truth. God gave us value. God created us with a value for truth. Atheism point of view doesn't matter. So if someone says, oh, this thing in Islam is wrong, You can refute it. I mean, the black seed oil thing or this, you can refute it. Or you can simply say, why? Why should I change my mind? I want to follow falsehood. What are you going to do about it? Prove to me truth has value from an atheistic point of view. You can't. The only thing you can come up with is truth helps you survive. But why, if something helping you survive, is it good or intrinsically valuable? Or why is even survival favorable? Why can't we just believe in anti-natalism, whatever it's called? Just why is life even worth living? Haroon Summerfield, Allah is Almighty, that's one of His attributes and it won't change. If you don't comprehend that, then that's not normal, neither are we able to completely comprehend His attributes, nor are we asked to. Yeah, that's true. Allah says, Rasulullah says, reflect deeply about Allah, reflect deeply about Allah's creation, do not reflect upon Allah. Meaning you can think about Allah's creation, you think about Allah's power, Allah's majesty, Allah's might, Allah's creative ability. You could think about all these things. But conceptualizing Allah, thinking about Allah, our minds aren't made for that. In the comments, people keep asking me questions of this sort of sectarian nature, whether I am of this particular brand of Muslims or that particular brand. So let me just be very clear with you guys, right? I'm a Muslim and we should all be happy with the label Muslim and we don't need to delve in any deeper. If other people want to call themselves something else, no problem. You do that. But you'll be contradicting the Quran because the Quran makes it very clear that Ibrahim alayhi salam called us Muslims. We should be happy, more than happy with the term Muslim. And of course, Muslims have some disagreements. I'm not saying brush those disagreements under the rug. Have a discussion, but have a civil discussion, have a academic discussion. I've changed my mind many times in the past. I used to do certain things, and I found out there's no evidence for those things in the Quran and the Sunnah. That's it. Just don't have this crazy sectarianism attitude. If God cannot exercise infinite functions wherever realm, He is not omnipotent. Look, God can do anything. But then when someone says, can God lift a rock that is can God create a rock that's so heavy that He can't lift it Himself? Very simple question. It's a very simple answer to that, which is that the question makes no sense. So you can't say yes or no. Essentially what the question is saying is, can God make a rock so big that God can't lift it? When you break that down lexically, semantically, what it means is, can God not be God? That's the question. The question doesn't make any sense. So we don't have a problem with the idea that God can do everything. Yes, God can do everything. But when you ask a question like that, the question itself has an internal contradiction. So we can't say, that, what was I saying again? So seem to have forgotten what I was saying. Yeah, we can't say, that's a valid question, therefore God is not omnipotent. No, we believe God is omnipotent. And those sort of questions have an internal contradiction. By the way, HC, you emailed me saying you wanted Abdullah Asadullah Ali's email. I asked him for his email. As soon as I get it, I will send it over your way. Dawood Salim Gulu. Can I say Allahu Akbar? I don't know. How do you want me to say it? Do you want me to say it like, you have I don't know. a 14th century Ottoman warrior on their horse with their sword saying, Allahu Akbar. How do you want me to say it? That's quite funny. Sabur, has the virus shown how weak superpowers are in reality? Their economics almost on their knees and they're fighting each other over all things like masks and stuff. Bun nationalism. Oh my God, that's such a funny name. That is such a funny name. Oh man, that just made my day. So, as you guys probably know who've been watching this live, I would say the number one people who have had the most disgusting behavior, the most immoral behavior, the most childish behavior, the most pathetic behavior during this crisis is actually Muslims. It doesn't matter if other people are doing something. We should not be doing it. How many Muslims right now are taking care of their non-Muslim neighbors? How many Muslims right now are hoarding, right? They buy all this stuff and I've seen videos. In fact, one of the videos I saw, there's this guy who stuffed up his house with everything, with fruits, toilet paper, rice, all this stuff. He had enough food in his house for at least 2 years. At least 2 years. And as he's making this video of his house, I saw a prayer mat on the floor. So clearly he was a Muslim. Right? So yeah, we can say, oh yeah, look at America denying Canada ventilators, and look at Germany, and look at the UK. Look at us as Muslims, right? We've failed. This calamity, we've failed. This calamity has brought out not just the worst in others. Let's forget others for now. It's brought out the worst in Muslims. Look, who you truly are is exposed at the time of calamity, right? It's at the time of calamity that you recognize who you truly are. And what we've seen from the Muslim community has been completely shameful. We have completely let non-Muslims down. We've let other Muslims down. We haven't, imagine how much positive PR would have happened if Muslims acted the way Muslims should act in this situation. So if they were in the front lines giving charity, if they were the ones who were basically, stocking up and then going out and giving to the elderly. And, there are some projects where some Muslims are doing that. But overall, I'm absolutely, if I was to blame anybody, I would say forget governments. We as Muslims, we had this golden opportunity to show the world that under times of crisis, we are selfless. We are here for you. We don't care about this world. We care about the next world. We're not ready to just go off and be selfish and just care about ourselves. But we did the exact opposite. Now, I keep, hearing in the background, someone would be saying, yeah, but other people did the same thing. Who cares? They're not our teachers. We as Muslims, just look at Muslims, right? How many Muslims exist in the UK? 3 million, right? Muslims in the UK, 3 million of us. How many non-Muslims know about Islam? Hardly any. How many drug gangs exist, which are basically Pakistani, right? They originate from Pakistan. How many other communities have Muslims who are whining, dining, clubbing, and doing all these types of things? As a community, and that's why I'm very careful about blank sheet, general criticism of West or the Western lifestyle or certain things. Because there are some very good things and there's some very bad things in us. So we need to be very balanced. And as Muslims, and we need to understand, Allah says in the Quran, God says in the Quran, to be just and to speak out, even if you have to speak out against yourself. Should Muslims be nationalists? No. Here's my type of question. Has Hollywood and the music romanticized the YOLO and its hedonistic narrative for the masses to the point that they don't even ask themselves the big questions? Will this ever pandemic force people to have more introspection? Sorry, I got excited. I love that question. Yes, absolutely, Mukeet Khan. Absolutely. We have this idea of, oh, just live for now, you're young, do what you want, Nike, just do it. And then when people go around crazy, beating the crap out of each other for toilet rolls when a crisis happens, we're like, oh, that type of behavior is very unethical. Well, all your life you've been teaching people to be YOLO, right? I mean, what's the name of that rapper? There's that rapper who does like a virginity test on his daughter to make sure she's still a virgin. And he himself, he's been making all these songs with all these half-naked girls all these years in his rap videos. Can anyone remind me what the name of that rapper is, please? Because I really want to cuss him a bit more. Somebody, please, what's the name of that rapper? No one's giving me his name. But anyway, yeah, definitely Hollywood's just filled us with this nonsense. And we've lapped it up as well. Some people say we should go to the mosque even if coronavirus is there and no harm will befall us in the mosque and Allah will protect us, and we should deal with such people. Ask those people to come back to the teachings of Islam. Ask them to come back to the teachings of the Quran, the teachings of the Sunnah, the teaching of the first 3 generations, which is according to all orthodox schools, the best of people. How did they view pandemics? They viewed pandemics in the way that the Prophet viewed them. The Prophet ﷺ. So you quarantine, you stay away, you do not harm others by you basically going and meeting people and you don't mix healthy people with sick people. So I don't understand this idea, we need to disobey the authorities, we need to get together and pray. And no, absolutely not the case. You have to remember, you have people today who claim to represent Islam. And Islam, there's 1 point something billion Muslims. I don't know what the figure is now. Maybe someone can tell me the figure. And, you have all these people that pop up as leaders, right? And they're not leaders. They're not leaders. They're nobodies. They literally, they just, if you ask them for proof, like, where do you get this from? They get offended. And that is the number one sign. And that is the number one sign that you're dealing with somebody who's definitely not a representative of Islam. Because when you ask for evidence, they should be able to give you evidence. And in this case, what they'll say is, well, so-and-so had a dream, or this happened, or trust me. No, that's not evidence. Evidence is, okay, this is what the Prophet said, this is what the Quran said, or this is what the early Muslims said. What languages do you speak? Urdu. I can speak Urdu. That's about it. HC is asking the question about, it's the same question I answered before. I hope you heard the answer, and that's linked to the Yusuf Ponder's video, which I put in the description. Davud Salim Glue. I have a question. Am I wrong, or Arabs are not taking the lead of Islam? In here, Turkey, people say Turks can lead, but it's not possible for now because of secularism. The people who will lead Islam are not going to be Arabs, not going to be Turks, not going to be Indians, not going to be Latinos, not going to be Americans, not going to be Chinese, not going to be aliens. it's going to be people who have taqwa, people who have this awe, this love, this fear, this hope of Allah, this trust in His promise. These people who they focus on the greater life rather than this life. And there's nothing of your genetic makeup, of your particular nation or your particular race, which is going to make you more likely to be the people of God. I mean, they are amazing, amazing, amazing people all over the world. When you travel, you'll meet them. You'll meet a few people when you go to places like Africa. And when you meet these people, you can be like, wow, these are really good people. These are people that you can see have this taqwa of Allah. You can see these are the hidden gems of Allah. You go to Asia, you'll find them there. You go to Arabia, you'll find them there. You go to Turkey, you'll find them there. You find them everywhere. But to say that they're like one group, I don't think you can say that. Ubaidullah Nabil. We are testing not just one or two, but all of the things Allah mentioned in the Quran. All of a sudden, subhanAllah, may Allah forgive us, grant us patience. May Allah be pleased with us. Ameen. What do you think about Sam Harris's argument on problems or evil and suffering? Very good question. Very good question. Who was that? Enlightened being. Enlightened being, you asked a very good question. My laptop is about to die, so I want you to put it on charge. Also, enlightened being, I am super thirsty. So I'm going to get some water and come back, and then I'm going to answer your question. And in between, you guys can keep typing and writing, because it looks like we're having a lot of fun in the comment section there. So I'll just be back in a sec.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry I'm eating, but anyone know what this is? This is a guava. Anyway, enlightened being, your question. What do you think about Sam Harris's argument on the problem of evil and suffering? Well, it's an argument which is essentially baseless. If I'm complaining about Fufula and I'm saying I don't like Fufula, Fufula is an idiot. Fufula is an enemy to humanity. Fufula is the worst thing since whatever, Hitler. You're going to say to me, bruv, what the hell is Fufula? I don't know what Fufula is. Same way, what is evil? So when Sam Harris uses this argument of there's evil in the world, what is evil? What particular rearrangement of atoms could you call evil? What is it? Show me. Show me something that is evil. Now you may show me, I don't know, somebody hitting a child with a hammer and say that's evil. I agree it's evil, but as an atheist, why is that evil? It's just a rearrangement of atoms. That action is predetermined anyway. That particular action is just molecules in motion. They can't define it. So what you could classify Sam Harris's position as is emotivism, right? It's superfluous, not superfluous. It's baseless. It has no, grounding. It's just expressing a dislike. That's all he's actually doing. Okay. Yes, it is a guava. Some people are saying amrood. These must be Pakistani or Indians or Bangladeshis. Yes. Jam. What the heck is jam? HC. Omnipotence is contradictory, self-refuting. Why? Why is that the case? How to deal with the essentially entrenched extremism amongst clerics. To go about reforming this, especially Pakistan, without seeming like an agent of America. There's the danger of the anti-secular attitude. I have no idea how to solve that problem, bro. It's beyond my pay grade. Right. So somebody's written the answer. And my sister just walked in. So she also told me about this rapper called T.I. Yeah, so that's the guy. He is a complete hypocrite. What is the... That's an interesting question. Alif Mustaqim. What is the philosophical comparison between Islamic social justice and utilitarianism? That's a good question. I like that. Never thought about that. So you have to give me a minute. Can you get me a glass of water, please? So my sister just walked to the room. I thought, yes, got opportunity to get some water. Well, utilitarianism is maximizing pleasure, right? Islamic social justice would have the objectives of Islam, which would include preservation of religion, preservation of life, and all these types of things. So it'd be totally distinct because the objectives would be different. But obviously, that's a very simple answer. Not sure if someone's done any work on that. Thank you very much. Mishari writes, Islamic social justice is based on many things, not only utility, it has the rights of individuals too. Yeah, true. Oh yeah, this enlightened being, he is amazing. He's asking really good questions. So what do I think about the debate between Sam Harris and William Lane Craig? This was like Mike Tyson versus a mouthy teenager. It was really bad. It was really bad. It was like, Sam Harris, he speaks in a particular way, comes across very eloquent, comes across very intelligent, and that just came crashing down. I mean, if I was Sam Harris, right, after that debate with William Lane Craig, I'd probably go get, because if I was an atheist like him, I'd probably just get some plastic surgery. I'd change my name to something else and restart my persona. That debate was so bad. I mean, he was just ripped to shreds. He was just ripped. It was just, I can't explain it. It was just, philosophically, it's very rare that you get like a knockout debate. Philosophically, it's all about, okay, gave him a bit of a jab, give him a bit of a jab, give him a bit of a jab, didn't really make him. So, you get all of this. And in comes William Lane Craig, which, to be honest, William Lane Craig's not that good, right? He's good, but he's not that good. There's way better Christian philosophers. Plantinga, for example, right? Consider him to be better than William Lane Craig. Anyway, so in comes William Lane Craig, yeah, and he doesn't he's wearing a suit. People think he's about to just do a jab, and he just goes and he gives a stone cold stunner, and then he just starts stomping on the guy. It was so bad. The debate just was terrible. It was literally Sam Harris came in with a script. William Lane Craig came, and actually Craig did something I've never seen him do. I mean, the arguments he used in that debate, I've not seen anyone do before, right? So kudos to him for that. And he just put them to Sam, and Sam didn't answer, and Sam just tried to distract everyone through emotivism, which can only go so far. Right? You can't get away with it for that long, right? And then William Lane Craig gave him, using his own argument, something that's similar to what I tried to do with Alex O'Connor, tried to use his argument to show how it leads to absurd conclusions. And again, Sam didn't even bother to try and respond. And he tried emotivism again, speaking about how the Bible and theism and Abrahamic God is evil, again and again and again and again. So it was just bad because William Lane Craig was putting forward really strong arguments, and Sam Harris was just evading them again and again, again and again. And not only using different tactics, using the same tactic. So yeah, I mean, no one should be taking Sam Harris seriously after that debate. In fact, you know what Sam Harris could have done, right? Sam Harris could have said, "That's an interesting point you've raised. I'll have to think about that," and left it. That would have been a better thing to do. But the way he just tried to defend himself by just totally throwing out red herrings, machine gunning red herrings, yeah, it was just really sad. What do you think? While we were talking about the debate, John Lennox and Dawkins, again, Lennox is really sharp. Lennox just made Dawkins look like an idiot. And I think, I could be wrong here, but I think one of the reasons why Richard Dawkins doesn't debate is he really got slapping by John Lennox. And after that, he decided he's not going to debate anymore. So that's why he didn't debate William Lane Craig, which would have been really good. Because even though I said William Lane Craig is not as good as others, he definitely is way better than Dawkins. He would have made Dawkins look stupid, even more stupid than John Lennox made him look. And that debate, I mean, Lennox and Dawkins have had more than one debate, but every single time he's just getting a whooping. The only time, however, I have to say that Dawkins made a comeback is when Dawkins switched the topic from God to Christianity. That's when Lennox was like looking a bit weak and stuff, and Dawkins started to look strong. But on that point, to be honest, that's just, you're bound to lose on that point, aren't you? I mean, that's just like, you know, God being a man and whatnot. Okay, someone, when will be your next public debate? When is the next public debate, and when and whom should you want to debate? To be honest with you, I would love to debate regularly. It's just very hard to find people agreeing, people with the qualifications, or with the following, or with the certain criteria, who are willing to actually hold discussions. So I've emailed atheist professors, and they've said no. Contacted a prominent atheist. Actually, I contacted him for Hamza to debate him. I also wanted to debate him as well. He said no. Other atheists that we've contacted to have a debate, they've asked for money. To be honest with you, I have a lot of respect for Alex O'Connor because he agreed to do the debate and he didn't ask for any money, and you know, he's a lot better than other atheists. So it's rare that you come across someone like that. A lot of them, you know, they're up on their high horses and they ask for a lot of money, and yeah, you know, of course not. Like Stephen Law is somebody we could debate quite easily. He doesn't charge and he's happy to come, and I have debated him in the past. But I mean, I would love to debate like Matt Dillhunty. Like that would be so much fun. That would be so much fun because he's like this fiery guy, you know. He's not like, you know, trying to be posh. He's just a bit of a, you know, he just comes across like rough, and you know, he's somebody that you'll enjoy putting down. It's not just a case of, you know, it's like, come here. It's like, remember Mortal Kombat with Sub-Zero, Scorpion saying, come here. He grabs the guy. Yeah? That's what you want to do with Matt. He's got this face. You know, he's got this face that you just feel like putting on the ground and just telling him, shaking him up, you know. Sorry, I got excited there. But yeah, inshallah, maybe one day. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Ghazi wrote, he's wild. Maybe he's speaking about something else, but I don't know. Yeah, he's got this wild, sort of vibe to him. That's what I like. Thoughts on Imran's recent debate? He personally thinks that Imran completed. That guy was Richard's guy. Oh man, you know what? I said seriously, Imran should have stopped the debate in the middle and just said to him, "Listen, bro, please have a seat. Just sit down. Just sit down. You already lost." I mean, he's the type of guy that if he just does his opening, he'll lose. He'll just imagine Imran doesn't do his opening. This Richard guy goes up there, does his opening, and then the audience votes that he lost. The guy was so bad. He was so bad. It's just the most one-sided debate online. It was worse than the Kraus Hamza debate. It was worse than a lot of these debates because, man, it was just so bad. Yeah, but it does. Right, Mukeeth wrote about Matt Dillhunty. He's got a punchable face. It's not the punchable face. It's that look in his eyes. Put him down and say, "Come on." It's not just about punching the person. It's like you're trying to wrestle with a beast. And you enjoy putting it down. I can imagine him being a bit of a competition. He's not going to be like, you're going to give some swipes and he's going to be like just taking it. He's going to give you back some. You're going to get a few punches in your face. He's the type of guy, when you're going to fight somebody that is going to put up a fight and you're going to enjoy it. That's what he's like. He's not going to be a pushover. It doesn't matter if his argument's not logical. He's going to stick to it. In fact, I think if you look at some of his debates, right, he has really good points that are made against him, but he has a good poker face. He just maintains it, and then he'll just try and play through that. Who do you think would be a challenging debater? I think people like Matt Dillhunty, they're not challenging logically. They're challenging from a rhetorical point of view. But who is a challenging atheist debater? I think Alex Rosenberg. Who I quote a lot, by the way. Really love that guy because he basically undermines atheism. But you see, when other atheists, they try and hide the problems in their worldview. So then you just got to smoke them out of that hole. And when they come out of that hole, you just got to smack them and that's it. And not, physically, but you get my point, those militant atheists, yeah? The thing about Alex Rosenberg is that it's like two armies are fighting, right? And with these other fake atheists, not fake atheists, but these atheists who come up with poor arguments like Matt Dillhunty, they'll try and defend territory that they really can't defend, right? And they'll eventually lose that. But someone like Alex Rosenberg, he'll just defend himself. He'll just confine himself to a little mountain, a little valley, or a little area. And then he'll just defend that. He'll give up most of his territory. So what you find in his writings is, when it comes to moral nihilism, like Alex O'Connor, he was trying to say an atheist doesn't have to be a moral nihilist, which I don't know how he's even going to be able to maintain that. You can't. You eventually have to concede that. But Rosenberg, he'll say, yeah. He'll say, yeah, atheism leads to moral nihilism, no problem. So then you ask him, why be good? He'll say, because it makes you feel good. That's actually what he's written in his book, because it makes you feel good. Then if you tell him, well, that's arbitrary, because if you evolved in a different way, you would have a different set of morals, which Alex O'Connor was really agreeing to. He didn't really see that as a problem for his view. Alex Rosenberg would actually say, yeah, that's true. And then you'd say to him, but that means it's totally arbitrary. That means it's totally like it has no basis. He'll say, yeah, that's what I read in my book. So do you see, when you get an atheist like that, and they're just trying to show that they're coherent, and they are happy to concede that their position is not true, they're happy to concede that their position is not morally binding on others, and all this type of stuff, what they've done is they've stripped down all of their fat, they've stripped down all of their weak points, and they've just taken on really strong armor, and then they're trying to fight you. Those people are a lot harder to pin down because they're not using any weak arguments. And his argument is not to persuade you atheism is true. He would simply say, this is my position. And he wouldn't really accept moral objectivity. Like if you asked him, is rape wrong objectively, past, present, future? He would say, rape is subjectively wrong. There's no objectivity to it. And we have Yusuf. Assalamu alaikum, Yusuf. You came in a bit late, but earlier on we were having a discussion whether you should debate rationality rules, because they were asking me to debate him, and I said, no, you should do it. And I put your refutation of him. And we had a lot of people saying that you should be debating him. So we've had a bit of an agreement today. How was your playing Salahuddin Ayyubi in that, forgotten the name of the game that you're actually playing? How did that go? Do you remember the guy, Rob? Yeah. Can you someday, you and your Ira friends, visit us here in Morocco? We'd love to learn from you and at the same time get to know Morocco. I would absolutely love to come to Morocco. One of my first, not one of my first dawah partner was this Moroccan brother called Yusuf Aushiga, who lives in South London. Amazing brother. Me and him used to give dawah in New Malden, and I used to go over to his house, and he used to give me a Moroccan breakfast with the green tea, with the wholemeal bread, with the honey and the olive oil. So I love Moroccan people. I have Moroccan friends, and yeah, absolutely, man. And tahini, who can forget tahini? Gotta come and have some of that there too. If you would change something from Hamza's argument from Krauss's debate, considering it happened 7 years ago, what would it be? I think Hamza totally demolished him. Obviously, that's clear for everybody. What I would say, something that I would have added, was that he was speaking from his high horse about morality. When New Atheism, which he is a part of, is a militantly pro-imperial force, and that's something which obviously people have written about, C.J. Wellerman, the New Atheist Threat, and other people. So maybe that could have been brought up, but I don't know, maybe that was a distraction, but that's the sort of thing I would have brought up. But other than that, in terms of Hamza's main arguments, they were all on point. When will you come back to Speaker's Corner? Well, Essen, Speaker's Corner is under lockdown at the moment. There's no Speaker's Corner. It's, I'm guessing, not going to open for a long time, perhaps months. When it does come back, I will be back, inshallah, God willing. Right. It was a flop, according to Yusuf, what he was trying to do because of an internet connection. Oh well, no problem. Omar Shah. Why do you think they're shy from accepting it like Cosmic Skeptic did? They can say, yes, rape is fine biologically and move on, fitra or any other tactics. I think the reason why they're shy to purely accept the subjectivity and the relativism that they view, not relativism, the subjectivity that they view leads them to, is that it's like exposing yourself in public, right? It's just, how much credibility will you have if you're a moral nihilist in a formal debate against anybody? Any ideology against moral nihilism is bound to be better, even if that ideology is completely nonsensical, because moral nihilism is literally completely baseless, right? It has no argument. There's no, you can't say it's better than anything because it's just, morality is subjective, and even truth, following truth is not intrinsically valuable. Truth is not intrinsically good. There's so many other implications. So you can see why people don't want to accept it. If Alex Rosenberg is a nihilist, why does he want to defend atheism? Because he thinks it's true. Now we can basically tell him that truth has no intrinsic value, so why are you valuing it in the first place? That's the way I would counter it. But yeah, that's what he would basically say. What do you think of Tom Holland, his channel for documentary, historical revisionism? Adnan Rashid is the best guy for that. This is not my area. Okay, Enlightened Being has another question. How can you justify 80 years of a sinful person and then basically going to hellfire forever? Is it merciful? The crime fits the punishment. Sorry, the punishment fits the crime. So, if I punch a baby, or if I punch a human, an adult, it's obviously two different things. So the punishment would be appropriate in regards to how much pain was caused or who it is done to. Likewise, if there's a human being who does something bad to another human, then that human being is accountable for that action, and they're punished according to whatever the law is. Now, what is the punishment of insulting, rejecting, disobeying a being that is absolutely almighty, perfect, holy, majestic, all-powerful, who is great? The punishment is not something we can use this all comparisons that we do as human beings, that, oh, this person, they committed murder, so they get 15 years, or this person only lived 80 years, so why did they do this? No. Any crime against a being of that, you can't say magnitude, but of that greatness, is going to be an extraordinarily great punishment. So when people say, well, the person was alive for 80 years and why they're in hellfire forever? The greatness of Allah, if somebody was to disobey Allah for a second, a microsecond, that warrants eternal punishment. That is the greatness of Allah. right? But it's not just the case that Allah is going to be like, you know, okay, so this person, they lived 80 years, but if they lived 81 years, maybe they would have accepted Islam. I want you to consider something, right? According to Muslim scholars, there are 4 categories of Allah's knowledge: past, present, future, potential. Allah knows what happened in the past, what is happening in the present, what will happen in the future, and Allah knows potential. So Allah knows if Fir'aun, the one who denied Allah, the one who disobeyed Moses and who drowned in the sea, who is going to be in hellfire. Allah knows that if Pharaoh didn't live for 50, 60 years or however long he lived, if Pharaoh lived for 1,000 years, and if Pharaoh happened to be born at the time of the Abbasid Caliphate, and he happened to be born in Baghdad, and he happened to be born to a pious Muslim family, Allah knows that Pharaoh has still been a disbeliever. So it doesn't matter if Pharaoh had a life of 1,000,000 years. It doesn't matter if he was born in Mexico, born in Medina, born anywhere else in the world, Pharaoh would have been a disbeliever, right? So it's not his environment which forces him to make that decision, because Allah knows that those people, they would have done the same thing. In the Quran, those people of hellfire, they will say to Allah, "Oh Allah, send us back and we will do good." And Allah says they are liars. If they go back, they'll do the same thing. So Allah knows every single potential trajectory. So it's not just the case that, oh, someone only lived for 80 years. Allah knows that if that person lived for 1,000,000,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years, you know, an infinite amount, no, you can't say infinite, but you get the point. Allah knows that they would have done the same exact thing. So Allah is just, Allah is merciful, and Allah in the Quran says He doesn't do injustice to anyone. Now, if somebody recognizes the Quran is true because of the Quran's miracle, that's enough as an answer, right? That Allah says that He doesn't do injustice. However, it's also good to give the 4 categories, the past, present, future, and potential, that look, you know, the punishment fits the crime. So eternal punishment or eternal punishment is something which fits disbelief. But eternal paradise is a mercy. That's not something that we deserve. So whoever goes to paradise, they don't actually deserve it. But anyone that goes to hellfire, they actually deserve it. And it's not just the case that, you know, Allah has, because, you know, you have people who are born in Muslim families and they become non-Muslims. And you have people who are born in non-Muslim families and they become Muslims. So it's not as simple as, well, the person only lived 60 years, why are they in hellfire for 60,000,000 years? No. It's a lot more comprehensive than that. And you have to start off with the first perspective, axiom, which is Allah's greatness, and then go from there. And then this question is a lot easier to actually understand. Come to Kazakhstan. You know, Kazakhstan has a river called the River Talis. This is very famous, by the way. A famous battle happened at the River of Talis between the the Abbasid dynasty and the Tang dynasty of China. And they had a war. And after the war was between the Arabs, the Abbasids, and the Tang dynasty. And when they had the war, the Tang dynasty had vassalized the Turkic people that lived in that region. So they were like mercenaries, and they were forced to fight on the side of China. Now, when the battle took place, the Turks betrayed the Chinese and they helped the Muslims, although the Turks were actually mushriks at the time. They were actually polytheists. No one knows why the Turks betrayed the Chinese and helped the Muslims to win the battle. What is clear, though, is that the Turks, after the battle, started converting to Islam, and then eventually the whole area, which encompasses the lands of the Turkic people, you know, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, you know, all this region. Of course, it has other people like Kazakhs as well and others. But all these groups of people which are related genetically going back, They all basically became Muslim. Very interesting battle. It actually happened in the 8th century, for anyone that's interested. But yeah, I'd love to come to Kazakhstan. I'd love to come to Talis. May Allah grant Brother Yusuf more bandwidth. What a great dua. I like that. Pondering Soul, there's someone here who says your definition of omnipotence in the Rationality Rules video is wrong. I'm guessing they want you to. You should get Arsalan again. We need to know more about East Turkestan. Absolutely. Did you read Sayyid Nusri's work in which he goes into atheism? I found it pretty amazing. No, I haven't read that. Although some people, they gave me like his books and stuff. Although I was flicking through it once when I was in South America, somebody gave me a book of his on atheism. Come to India, we really need you guys. We are battling the atheists, liberals, and communists and Hindu nationalists at the same time. You don't need me. You don't need anybody. You just need Allah. You need to have a connection with Allah, a sincere intention, and Allah is going to be with you. You know, the brothers in IRA, the brothers in Speaker's Corner, the other brothers who are involved in debates against atheists, you know, people think that we have something that they don't have. No, we don't. You know, it's all from Allah. You know, you have brilliant Muslim minds in India that are more than enough to deal with these ideologies. Thank you for asking the question, enlightened being, about the eternal punishment. What do you think about the debate between Tariq Ramadan and Hitchens? Well, exactly like Asadullah Ali said yesterday. On the surface level, it looks like Tariq Ramadan lost on the surface level because of Hitchens' rhetoric. But intellectually, this wasn't even a debate. Hitchens just got slapped about. But it's just his ability to keep a poker face and make, you know, a few comments which are witty, managed to just basically save his face. Yep. That's what I was talking about earlier. Even if people were to be returned, they'd do the same thing. There's a debate of Abdullah Andalusi on Is Hell Just, where he clarifies this issue brilliantly. Yes, Abdullah does. And Abdullah Andalusi is going to be joining me on Thursday for the topic, Do Humans Really Need God? Anybody that's interested. All right, guys. So it's been fun. We've been going live for like 2.5 hours. May Allah bless all of you. I had a lot of fun as usual, and a lot of you asked very good questions. So I will be live again at 4 o'clock UK time tomorrow, and my intention is to go live every single day while we're under lockdown at 4 o'clock. And if I am, even if the lockdown ends, I will try and just go live as much as possible, hopefully at the same time. Who is the guest tomorrow? Tomorrow, guys, tomorrow my guest at 4 o'clock is none other than the CEO of iEra, Sheikh Abdurrahim Green, which I'm really excited about. Hopefully we're not going to have the bandwidth problem that we had today. But yeah, so looking forward to that. And it's going to be about the topic, the dawah must continue. I'll see you then. Jazakallah khair for all your questions. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.